What is up, Sopranos fans? Kino here, and I am back with another Soprano log. Today we're looking at the third episode of the 5th season, Where's Johnny? And there's three storylines happening in this episode. The first is with New York. Now, tensions are starting to rise now that Carmine Sr. has passed, and there's a real fight brewing between Little Carmine and Johnny Sack over who's going to take over. Johnny Sack really wants to be the boss, and when Lorraine Caluso, who is this female gangster, I mean, of course, she's not a maid member or anything like that, but she's got a Shylock business going, and she's friends with Little Carmine. They even had a relationship in the past. When she starts kicking up money to Little Carmine instead of Johnny Sack, he sends Phil Leotardo down there to, scare her into obeying him. And it's funny, she acts really tough. She acts like she's this, tough gangster lady. But when they assault her and tie her up, she starts pleading for her life, and she offers to suck Phil Leotardo's cock and all his men's, even in front of her boyfriend, who's right there, which is pretty funny to see her like that. But it turns out it's just a mock execution. They're not really planning on killing her. They just wanted to send a message to all these capos that, Johnny Sack is to be respected. Lorraine and Angelo later meet with Tony to see if he can help kind of negotiate a peace before this goes to all-out war. At the meeting, Junior says that, Tony never had the makings of a varsity athlete. It kind of comes out of nowhere, and everyone's wondering, why is he saying that? Tony kind of plays it off for the moment and instead suggests that there be a power-sharing situation between Johnny, Carmine, and Angelo Guarepi, who was just released from prison, and he was Carmine Sr.'s consigliere for a long time. So he thinks this power-sharing situation might resolve tension, and he goes to talk to Johnny Sack and see if he'll agree to this. But Johnny Sack refuses. He wants to be, the number one boss. He doesn't want to share any power, so he refuses to be a part of this power-sharing situation. Meanwhile, Feech and Tony B are coming back from lunch. Feech sees this gardener named Sal Vitro out mowing lawns. He pulls over and tells him that this neighborhood belongs to his nephew, Gary LaManna, instead. When Sal refuses to go along with this, Feech breaks his arm to send a message. And then when Paulie hears about this, he agrees to help Sal out. One, because Sal, is nice to his mother, and his mother really likes him. But two, Paulie's demanding points for this. So, of course, this is going to work out in his favor, too. So he goes to talk with Feech and try to convince him to let Sal have the neighborhood. Feech refuses, and this leads to a big argument between the two of them. Later, Paulie tracks down Feech's nephew, Gary, and assaults him to send a message to Feech. Eventually, Tony has to step in to mediate this, and he eventually settles on splitting the neighborhood in half. So half will go to Sal, and half will go to Gary. And as part of this arrangement, Sal has to do some of the lawns for free, including Tony and Johnny Sack's lawns. So Sal really got screwed out of this. It shows you that you should never work with mobsters. They're always going to squeeze you for something. The last storyline happening in this episode is with Junior. His dementia is continuing to get worse. There's this funny scene where he sees himself on the TV. It's actually the show Curb Your Enthusiasm. But he thinks that Larry David is him and the other guy is Bobby, so he's just really confused about what's going on. Later on, Tony and AJ go over to Sunday dinner at Junior's house. It's funny, they say Sunday dinner, but it's actually at 2 p.m. because, Junior's an old man and they eat dinner really early. But Junior, again, repeats the varsity athlete line. He keeps bringing it up out of nowhere. And Tony gets really mad at this because he says that it's undermining and he doesn't want that toxic behavior in his family. Which is funny because immediately after he says that, he undermines Janice and hints that she didn't really cook all the food that they're having right there. So he's just as guilty of being toxic as Junior is. But again, Junior repeats the line one more time, and Tony completely flips out about this. He leaves and he refuses to have anything to do with Junior after this. One day, though, Junior wanders out of the house. He drives away unsupervised, which he's not supposed to do. And he ends up wandering around Newark looking for his brother, Johnny Boy. He wanders around the old neighborhood trying to find him, but he can't. He's really disoriented. He doesn't even have his shoes. And eventually some cops find him, and they don't believe he's a Junior Soprano because Junior Soprano's reputation as this, ruthless mob boss. He just had his trial earlier. So they eventually take him home and find out that it is actually him, that this, mob boss has become a senile old man. Janice and Bobby go to Tony and try to convince him to help them get Junior to a doctor to treat him for his, his Alzheimer's. Tony refuses, though. Again, he's just so upset by this. He doesn't want anything to do with Junior. And this leads to a big fight between him and Janice. Janice says that the reason Tony is alone without his family is because, this selfish attitude of his. And then Tony accuses Janice of just trying to pawn off all her responsibility on him, just like she did when they were teenagers. So this leads to a really big fight. It gets physical. She slaps Tony. He chokes her out. And you can just see the tension in this family is palpable. Later, though, Tony runs into Junior's doctor, and the doctor tells Tony that, Junior's behavior is probably caused by many strokes he's been having. So it's really not his fault that he's been so, aggressive and ornery, and he keeps repeating the same thing over and over again. Tony finally agrees to go, talk with Junior again. They sit down, and Tony asks him, he understands that he's got dementia and he has to keep repeating himself. But why does that be something mean? Why can't he repeat something nice? And he asks, does Junior even love him? And Junior starts to cry a little bit. And we can see that, of course, Junior does love Tony. In many ways, Junior is more of a father to Tony than his actual father was. It's just they have all this, emotions tied to, their relationship. Of course, Junior being squeezed out of being the boss and all his resentment of Tony. Clouds that, but at his core, Junior really does love Tony, and we can see that especially at the end of the series. I'll talk more about it when we get to there, but when Junior's at the end, all he can remember is his relationship with Tony and the good times. So a really powerful ending there, and a really good episode. Thank you guys so much for watching, and stay tuned for the next Soprano log coming soon. To all my patrons, I say, you all have the makings of a varsity athlete. Hunter, Tommy Smith, Abdallah Alamari, George Jones, Russell, Sean, Graham, Rooftop, Rico Bellick, Heart of Markness, Broccoli, Isaiah, Placenta Juan, Logan, and Clean.